The doctor said my arm would heal. He said it like it was simple, like bones were the only thing that mattered. 6 to 8 weeks, he told me, tapping the white plastic cast like it was a clock. Rest, no heavy lifting, physical therapy later. I nodded. I even forced a smile, because I could handle pain. I'd handled pain my whole life. But then my phone buzzed on a little hospital tray table, and everything inside me went quiet. Dad flashed across the screen. My daughter. My heart jumped the way it always did when I saw her name. Even after the divorce. Even after the awkward handoffs. Even after the long months where she sounded more distant with every call. I answered fast, like if I waited even 1 second, she might disappear. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, trying to sound strong. "I'm okay. I broke my arm at work. It looks worse than it is." Silence. I could hear breathing on the other end. Then a small sigh. Not worried, not scared, annoyed. And then her voice came, soft but sharp, like a needle. "Mom says you'll do anything for attention." I blinked, my mouth open, but nothing came out. I stared at the wall across from me. It was the color of old milk. There was a little stain in the corner that looked like a cloud. I focused on it like it could hold me up. What did you say?" I asked, almost whispering. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. You always have some problem, Dad. Something's always wrong. Maybe if you actually had your life together, I wouldn't have to be embarrassed. Embarrassed. That word landed in my chest harder than the fall that snapped my arm. I felt the hospital room tilt. The air turned thick. I held the phone tighter with my good hand, like it might slip away. "Sweetheart," I started, but she cut me off. "I'm at Jason's place. We're having dinner. Mom said not to stay on the phone. Just don't make this a big thing, okay?" Jason, her mom's new husband. The man who walked around like he owned every room he entered. The man who called me buddy, with a smile that felt like a slap. I swallowed, forcing my voice steady. Can I see you tomorrow? I have you this weekend." A pause. Then the sentence that broke something in me that no cast could fix. "I don't want to come over anymore." Just like that. No yelling. No drama. Just a calm, final sentence from my own daughter. My arm throbbed, but I didn't even feel it, because the worst pain in that room wasn't the bone that cracked. It was the love I gave for 13 years, suddenly treated like a burden. And as the call ended, I sat there staring at my cast, realizing something terrifying. A broken arm heals, but a broken bond? That's a different kind of injury. And I wasn't about to let Jason, or my ex-wife, turn my daughter into a stranger without a fight. Not this time. Not after that sentence. So I made a decision right there in that hospital bed. If they wanted to paint me as the weak, messy, attention-seeking father, then I would show them the truth. And the truth was going to leave them speechless. Let me tell you who I was before that hospital room. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't rich. I wasn't one of those dads who wore fancy watches and talked about investments over steak dinners. I was a hands-on dad, the kind that packs lunches with little notes, the kind that learns how to braid hair even when his fingers cramp, the kind that sits through dance recitals with watery eyes because his little girl on that stage is his whole world. My daughter, Layla, was my best friend when she was small. She used to climb into my lap and press her ear to my chest. "I like your heartbeat," she'd say. "It sounds like home." And when her mom and I started breaking apart, I held on for Layla. But some cracks don't show until the whole wall comes down. My ex-wife, Marissa, and I didn't explode in one big fight. We faded. She wanted more. More money. More status. More of that shiny life she saw on social media. I work construction. Long hours. Hard work. Honest work. She called it small. And then Jason appeared. Jason with his perfect teeth, his pressed shirts, his business meetings. He came into her life like a spotlight, and I became background noise. The divorce wasn't loud. It was cold. Papers, meetings, quiet arguments behind closed doors. And then the court decided the schedule like they were assigning shifts at a job. Every other weekend. One weekday dinner. Holidays split down the middle. They didn't split my daughter's heart, though. That happened slowly, in tiny moments. Like when Marissa started calling me by my first name in front of Layla. Like when Jason began showing up at school events, smiling too wide, shaking hands like he was running for mayor. Like when Layla started wearing clothes I couldn't afford and looking at my old car like it smelled bad. I tried to adjust. I tried to keep up. I picked up overtime shifts. I skipped meals. I sold my old guitar, the one I'd had since I was 20, and I still fell behind. Because love doesn't pay rent. It doesn't cover school trips. It doesn't buy new phones when the old one is embarrassing. But I thought if I stayed steady, if I kept showing up, Layla would feel it. That was my mistake. I believed being present was enough. I didn't realize someone was working behind the scenes, quietly rewriting my story. And when the day came that I broke my arm, it wasn't just an accident. It was the moment everything in my life became vulnerable. Because when you can't work, you can't earn. And when you can't earn, people start treating you like you don't matter. Especially the ones who already want you out of the picture. And that's exactly when Jason made his move. I just didn't see it yet. Not until that sentence from my daughter hit me like a wrecking ball. And not until I started asking myself one question I couldn't ignore. Why did my daughter sound like she was reading lines from someone else's script? The day I broke my arm, the sky was gray and low. The kind of morning that feels heavy even before anything bad happens. We were on site early. A renovation job downtown. Old building, tight spaces, loud tools, the smell of dust and metal. I'd been rushing because it was my weekend with Layla, and I promised her I'd take her to this little food festival she'd been talking about. I kept picturing her smile. That was the fuel that got me through every long day. Then it happened. A stack of boards shifted on a platform. I heard someone yell. Instinct took over. I reached out to steady it, not thinking, just reacting. The boards didn't stop. I lost balance. My boot slipped, and the world flipped. I landed hard. The pain shot through my arm like lightning. I didn't scream. I just breathed through it, gritting my teeth while my co-workers ran over. "Man, don't move," one of them said. I looked down and saw it. My arm, bent wrong. I've seen injuries on job sites. I've seen grown men go pale. But when it's your own body, it feels unreal, like you're watching someone else. At the hospital, after the cast went on, I did what I always did. I called Marissa first, not because we were close, because she was my daughter's mother. She picked up on the third ring. "What?" she said, like I interrupted something important. "Marissa, I broke my arm." I told her. "I'm in the hospital. I might need to swap weekends until I'm back on my feet." There was a pause, and then a sound that wasn't concern. It was relief. "Oh," she said. "Well, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate. Like bad weather. I can't work for a bit," I said carefully. "It's going to be tight." "Jason said you should have insurance for this stuff," she replied, sharp and quick. That's what responsible adults do. I stared at the ceiling tiles. "Can you just tell Layla I'm okay?" I asked. "I don't want her to worry." "She'll be fine," Marissa said. "She's with people who can actually take care of her." Then she hung up. "No, get well soon." "No, are you okay?" Just a click. That was when I should have understood what was coming. Because the next few days, the silence was loud. Layla didn't call. She didn't text. I sent her a photo of my cast with a silly smile, trying to lighten it. No reply. I tried again the next day. "Hey, kiddo, I miss you. Want to FaceTime tonight?" Nothing. It felt like my phone had become a cold piece of metal. When I finally got that call from her, the one that ended with, "I don't want to come over anymore," it didn't feel random. It felt planned. Like my injury wasn't just inconvenient. It was an opportunity. And suddenly I saw it clearly. Jason didn't just step into my daughter's life. He was slowly pushing me out. And my broken arm wasn't the problem. It was the opening they'd been waiting for. So I started paying attention. To small details. To little patterns. To the way Marissa's messages changed from cold to cruel. to the way Layla's tone sounded less like a kid and more like someone repeating adult opinions. And the more I listened, the more one thought kept rising in my mind like a warning siren. If I don't fight for the truth now, I might lose my daughter forever. I need you to understand something. I didn't blame Layla at first, because kids don't wake up one day and decide to stop loving their parent, not without someone guiding their thoughts, whispering, planting doubts like seeds. I decided to see her in person, even if she didn't want to come over. So the following week, with my arm still in a cast and my pride still bleeding inside, I showed up at her school. There was a small winter performance, a choir thing, parents standing around with phones held high. I stood in the back, not to hide, but because I didn't know where I belonged anymore. I saw Marissa and Jason near the front. Jason had his hand on Marissa's shoulder like he owned her, like he owned the whole scene. And then I saw Layla. She was taller than I remembered, hair pulled back, wearing a sweater I didn't recognize. For a second, she looked around, and her eyes landed on me. My heart jumped. I lifted my good hand and waved, just a little. Her face tightened. Not hate, just discomfort, like seeing me was awkward. And then she looked away. After performance, parents crowded in, hugging their kids, laughing, taking photos. I waited. I didn't want to force myself into her space. But when she finally stepped out into the hallway, I walked up gently. "Hey, kiddo," I said softly. "You sounded amazing." She didn't smile. She didn't hug me. She glanced at my cast like it was proof of something she didn't want to deal with. Jason stepped closer, positioning himself just slightly between us. It was subtle, but it was a move. "Layla, we're going," Marissa said, already turning. "Can I talk to her for a minute?" I asked. "Just 1 minute." Marissa let out a small laugh. "Not funny. Not kind." "About what?" she said. "Another crisis?" Layla shifted uncomfortably. I leaned down a little, tried to meet her eyes. "Sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice calm, "did I do something upset you?" She hesitated. Then she said it, the sentence, not the one from the phone. A different one, a worse one, because it came with her eyes looking through me like I was nothing. "Mom says you're just trying to make us feel sorry for you." I swear my chest went hollow. I wanted to say, "No, I'm trying to be your dad." But the hallway was full of people, and I could feel eyes on us. And Jason smiled. Not big, just enough to let me know he enjoyed this. Then Marissa added quietly, like a final nail, "You should stop dragging her down with your mess." They walked away with my daughter between them, and I stood there, holding my broken arm close, realizing something painful. Layla wasn't rejecting me because she didn't love me. She was rejecting me because she was being taught to. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. The place was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts too clearly. I scrolled through old photos of Layla and me, her on my shoulders at the fair, her holding a stuffed bear I won for her asleep on my chest, mouth slightly open, safe. Then I opened our text thread, my last 10 messages, all unanswered, and I finally asked myself a question I was scared of. What did they tell her about me when I wasn't there? So I did something I'd never done before. I stopped reacting emotionally, and I started collecting the truth. Because if they were writing a story where I was the villain, then I needed receipts to prove who the real villain was. And that's when I remembered something important. Something about Layla's future. Something I'd been paying into for years. Her college fund. A fund Marissa insisted had to be handled properly. A fund Jason offered to manage. And suddenly, a cold thought crawled up my spine. What if this wasn't just about love? What if it was about money? The next morning, I called the bank. It wasn't easy with one arm. Everything took longer. Buttons, paperwork. Even tying my shoes felt like a challenge. But pain has a strange way of sharpening focus. I asked about the education savings account, the one I'd been paying into since Layla was 5. I still remember the day I opened it. I was so proud. I walked out of the bank thinking, no matter what happens, my daughter will have options. The woman on the phone asked me security questions. Then she paused. I'm sorry, she said, but you're not listed as an account holder. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? I asked. It's my daughter's account. I set it up. Sir, she said gently, your name is not authorized on the account. I can't give you details. I hung up and sat there, staring at my kitchen table. My coffee was cold. I didn't remember making it. I called Marissa. She didn't answer. I texted, "We need to talk about Layla's college account." Minutes later, she replied, "Stop being dramatic. Jason handles that stuff. Focus on healing. Focus on healing." Like this was normal. Like a father not being allowed to see his own child's future savings was no big deal. My hands shook as I typed back with my good hand. I need statements. I've been paying into it for years. Her response came fast. You barely pay enough for anything. Don't start acting like you're some hero. That's when I knew. If everything was fine, she would have shown me. She would have shut me up with proof. But she didn't. She attacked. So I called my friend Marcus. Marcus and I grew up together. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't emotional. He was the kind of guy who sees through nonsense like it's glass. He worked in accounting. When I told him what was happening, he went quiet for a second. Then he said, "Tell me you have records of your deposits." I exhaled. "Yeah, I have transfers, pay stubs, everything." "Good," he said, "because if they're hiding statements, it's usually for one reason." I swallowed. "They spent it, or moved it," he replied, "or used it as collateral, or worse." That word, worse, hung in the air. Marcus came over that evening with his laptop, and we sat at my kitchen table like two guys planning something we never wanted to plan. I pulled up every bank transfer I'd ever made. Dates, amounts, notes, all labeled Layla College. Marcus organized them into a clean spreadsheet. Then he looked up at me. "Total deposits from you?" he asked. I leaned forward. He told me the number. It was higher than I thought, because I'd been paying for years. I felt pride for half a second, and then grief. Because if that money wasn't sitting safely for Layla, then where was it? Marcus tapped the screen. "You might not be on the account anymore," he said, "but your transfers leave a trail. We can request an audit, especially if you can prove your intent was for your daughter." "And if Marissa refuses?" I asked. Marcus's eyes hardened. "Then we make her explain it to people who don't care about her excuses." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying Layla's words. "Mom says you'll do anything for attention." What if the tension story was just a cover? A smoke screen to distract from something bigger? And if Jason was handling that stuff, then maybe Jason wasn't just replacing me emotionally. Maybe he was replacing me financially, taking my role, taking my money, taking my daughter's trust. I didn't want revenge at that point. Not yet. I wanted answers. But once you start digging for answers, you don't always like what you find. And the next thing we found turned my heartbreak into something else entirely. Something colder, something focused, something dangerous, not in violence, but in truth. Marcus helped me file a formal request for documentation. Not an angry message, not a threat, a clean, calm letter. Professional, polite, the kind of letter that says, "I'm not emotional, I'm serious." We sent it to Marissa and Jason, and we waited. Jason replied first. Of course he did. His email was smooth, almost friendly. He wrote things like, "We appreciate your concern, and it's being managed responsibly, and there's no need to involve lawyers." But he didn't attach statements. He didn't attach proof. Just words. And words don't protect a child's future. 2 days later, Marissa showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door and saw her standing there in a coat that looked expensive. Her eyes flicked to my cast, then away, like it irritated her. "Why are you doing this?" she snapped. "Because I'm her father," I said quietly. Marissa scoffed. "You want to prove something? This isn't the way." "What's in the account?" I asked direct. She hesitated, just for a second. Then she got loud, like volume could erase the truth. "You're making a scene," she said. "Layla doesn't need your drama." I didn't match her energy. I just held her gaze and said, "Show me the statements." Her face tightened. "I don't have them," she said. "Then who does?" I asked. Her mouth opened, then shut. That was all I needed. After she left, I sat down with Marcus and said the words out loud. They took it. Marcus nodded slowly. "Now we prove it. Here's the thing about revenge. The best revenge isn't screaming. It isn't breaking things. It isn't trying to win with emotions. The best revenge is making someone face consequences in daylight. So we built a plan. Step 1, we contacted a family lawyer, not for custody drama, for financial protection of a minor. Step 2, we gathered every deposit record I had. Step 3, we documented communication, emails, texts, refusals, vague statements. And step 4, we used Jason's own pride against him, because Jason had a weakness. He loved being seen as the hero, the provider, the better man. Marcus found out Jason was on the board of a local charity, a public figure in his little world. He was hosting a fundraiser event in 2 weeks. A big one. Photos, donors, speeches. Jason wanted to shine, so we didn't attack him privately. We applied pressure where he cared most. His image. The lawyer filed a request for an official accounting connected to a minor's funds. That kind of request doesn't stay quiet. Banks get nervous. Boards get nervous. People start asking questions. And when Jason got notice of it, he called me for the first time ever. His voice was smooth, but the anger leaked through the edges. "Listen," he said, "I think we got off on the wrong foot." I almost laughed. "Did we?" I asked. He sighed. "You're hurt. You're stressed. I get it. But this could embarrass Marissa. It could embarrass Layla." There it was. Not concern. Control. "You should have thought about that before you hid the statements." I replied calmly. His tone shifted. "You're making accusations." "I'm asking for proof." I said, "If everything is fine, you'll be fine." A long pause. Then he said coldly, "You don't want to go to war with me." I looked at my cast. Then I looked at the folder Marcus made, filled with dates and numbers and facts. And I said, "I'm not going to war, Jason. I'm going to the truth." Then I hung up. My arm still hurt. My heart still ached. But for the first time since that hospital call, I felt something new. Power. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. Because I wasn't guessing anymore. I was building a case. And Jason didn't know it yet. But his little perfect world was about to crack. The fundraiser was held at a fancy hotel downtown. I almost didn't go. Part of me thought, this isn't my world. But then I remembered something. Jason didn't steal from me. He stole from my daughter. And suddenly, that hotel didn't feel too fancy for a father protecting his kid. Marcus came with me. The lawyer didn't come, not necessary. We weren't there to cause a scene. We were there to watch, to listen, to let Jason walk into his own mess. The room was full of polished people, bright lights, clinking glasses, fake laughs. Jason stood near the stage, shaking hands like a politician. And when he saw me, his face froze for half a second. Then the smile returned, forced and tight. "Wow," he said, stepping closer. "Didn't think you'd show." "I go where my daughter's future goes," I replied. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "You're making yourself look desperate." I looked at him and said softly, "You're making yourself look guilty." His jaw flexed. Before he could reply, a woman approached Jason. Older, serious, wearing a badge from the bank. Jason stiffened. I recognized her from a photo the lawyer had emailed me earlier. Compliance officer. The kind of person who doesn't get invited to parties unless something is wrong. Jason's eyes flicked toward me, then away. The woman spoke quietly, but I saw Jason's smile fade as she handed him a folder. He tried to laugh it off, tried to keep the charm on, but his hands shook, just slightly. Marissa arrived 10 minutes later, wearing a dress that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent. She found Jason, noticed his expression, and immediately looked annoyed. "What's going on?" she whispered. Jason forced a smile again. "Nothing. Just paperwork." But then Marissa saw me. Her eyes narrowed like I brought dirt into a clean room. "You're here?" she hissed, marching over. "Are you trying to ruin everything?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just said, "I'm trying to protect our daughter." Marissa laughed bitter. Protect her from what? From a stable home? From a man who actually provides? My chest tightened, but I stayed calm. From anyone who would use her, I said. Jason stepped in, voice low and threatening. "Leave," he said. Marcus leaned slightly forward. "He has every right to be here." Jason's nostrils flared. Then, like a nightmare turning real, Layla walked into the room with Marissa's sister. Layla wasn't supposed to be here, but Marissa wanted her seen, wanted her to witness the successful life. Layla spotted me and froze. She looked confused, nervous, and for a moment, she looked like the little girl who used to press her ear to my chest. "Dad," she said quietly. Marissa snapped, "Don't start." But the damage was already done, because Layla noticed Jason's face. Not the confident face, the worried one. The bank woman approached again, this time with two men in suits. Jason tried to laugh, tried to charm, but the suits didn't smile. They spoke to him quietly, then looked at Marissa. Marissa's face went pale. Layla looked between them, eyes wide, and I realized this was the moment the truth steps into the room. I crouched slightly to meet my daughter's eyes. "Layla," I said gently, "I need you to listen. No matter what you've been told, I never lied to you. I never played a game with you." Her lip trembled. "What's happening?" I took a slow breath. "Your college money," I said softly. "The money I saved for you, it isn't where it's supposed to be." Marissa gasped. "Stop." Jason snapped. "Don't talk to her." But the men in suits stepped closer, and suddenly Jason didn't look so big anymore. One of the suit guys spoke louder, enough for nearby people to hear. "We need to discuss irregular activity connected to a miner's account." Irregular activity. The room shifted. People turned. Whispers spread like wine through dry grass. Jason's face drained of color. His smile, the one he always wore like armor, finally cracked. And in that crack, everyone saw what I'd seen for months. Not a hero, not a provider, a man hiding behind a child. Layla stared at her mom, then at Jason. "Mom," she whispered, "is that true?" Marissa opened her mouth. No words came out. And Jason looked at me like he wanted to erase me from the room. But he couldn't, because I wasn't yelling. I wasn't swinging fists. I wasn't causing chaos. I was just standing there with a broken arm, while the truth did all the damage for me. After that night, things moved fast. Not because I pushed, because people who live on image can't survive under a spotlight. The bank launched a full investigation. Jason was removed from the charity board, pending review. Marissa stopped posting smiling family photos. And the court, the same court that once treated my fatherhood like a calendar schedule, suddenly cared a lot about what happened to money meant for a child. I won't pretend it was easy. There were meetings, papers, phone calls, stress that made my cast feel even heavier. Marissa tried to blame me. She claimed I was vindictive. She told people I was trying to get back at her. But here's the thing. When you have facts, insults don't matter. The records showed withdrawals that didn't match any education expense. Signatures that didn't match mine. Transfers routed through accounts linked to Jason's business. And when Jason finally realized he couldn't charm his way out, he turned on Marissa, claimed she knew, claimed she approved. It was ugly. Not loud ugly. Quiet ugly. The kind that makes you realize you married someone who would sell peace for comfort. And through all of it, I kept my focus on one thing. Layla, because none of this mattered if she still believed I was the bad guy. 2 weeks after the fundraiser, Layla asked to see me. Just me. No Marissa. No Jason. She came to my apartment on a Sunday afternoon. My cast was still on. My place was still small. Nothing fancy. I opened the door and saw her standing there with red eyes and shaking hands. She didn't walk in right away. She just stared at me like she didn't know what version of me was real. The Attention-seeking dad, or the dad who fought for a future. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi, kiddo," I said softly. She stepped inside slowly, like she was entering a place she forgot was hers too. We sat on the couch. The silence between us felt like a wall. Then she looked at my cast, and her voice cracked. "I didn't even ask if you were okay," she said, tears filling her eyes. I just believed them. I swallowed hard, because anger wanted to rise in me, but love rose higher. "It hurt," I admitted quietly. "Not my arm. Your words." She flinched. "I didn't mean it," she said. "Mom kept saying you were trying to guilt me. Jason said you were unstable. And every time I defended you, they'd say I was being childish." I leaned back, exhaling. "So you started repeating them," I said gently. She nodded, crying now. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I stared at the wall for a second, trying not to break in front of her. Then I said the only thing that mattered. "Come here." She moved into my side, careful my cast, and when she hugged me, she held on like she was afraid I'd disappear. "I thought you didn't want me," she whispered. I closed my eyes. "Never," I said. "Not for a second." We talked for hours. Not about Court. Not about Jason. About us. About what she felt. About what I felt. And I told her something I wish someone told me when I was younger. "People will sometimes use your love as a weapon," I said. "They'll twist it. They'll try to make you choose sides. But love shouldn't feel like a trap." She wiped her face. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I gave a sad smile. "Because I didn't want you caught in the middle," I said. "But I learned something too." "What?" she asked. I looked at her, my voice calm. "Silence isn't always protection," I said. "Sometimes silence lets lies grow." That night, after she left, I stood by my window watching her walk to the car. My arm still wasn't healed, but my chest felt lighter. Because justice isn't always loud. Sometimes justice is a child finally seeing the truth. Sometimes revenge is simply refusing to be erased. And here's the lesson I'll leave you with. A broken arm reminds you to slow down, but a broken bond reminds you to speak up. If someone is poisoning your name to the people you love, don't fight with rage. Fight with patience. Fight with proof. Fight with the kind of truth that doesn't need shouting. Because in the end, the sentence that hurt me most didn't define my daughter. It revealed the people who were trying to control her. And once the truth came out, the same words that broke me became the reason I finally rebuilt everything.